Janet talking.
Would you like us to go around and identify with voice, Petra? Or is
Yeah,
it
if you
okay?
do a roll call, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay. You want me to just call their names when they say here, or they just
That's
say?
fine. Either way.
Okay, well, we'll start with the CAC. Misty, here. Muni staff, here. Scotty Jones, here. Randy Hart,
Here.
Deb Olson,
Here.
okay, and others attending are
Sarah Cad.
John Pittman.
Sorry, John.
Dick Ho.
Keita Tom is here. And
Sarah Cash is here.
And Patrick Wingard with Department of Land Conservation Development.
that is it.
Welcome, Patrick.
Now we will start the meeting with the flag salute. We have a flag tonight.
Yep. Pledge allegiance.
The United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item is public comments, and we have couple people here from public. So John, if you have something to bring.
Well, there's a water issue that will be addressed. I think Missy will bring it up later, and I'm one of the affected. And this is underground water coming off the mountain. And the recent work that ODOT did, like in front of the bank, the water's not draining into that storm drain, so we'll be brainstorming, I guess, with the county and others to figure out remediation.
So is there a new storm drain in front of the old bank building that is not draining properly?
Water's not getting to it.
Water's not getting to it. Okay,
It's been brought to their attention that the one on the opposite side of that corner.
What's that?
It's been brought to their attention that the one on the opposite side of where you're speaking of, it doesn't hit that drain either, and it goes down the sidewalk,
In front of the mercantile?
closer to the tavern lot.
Okay.
It doesn't get to the drain at all.
actually kind of kitty corner, and also a new drain.
The drain has been there, but when they did their sidewalk modify, they just made a channel for it to disappear instead of going to the drain. It's been brought to their attention today.
Okay.
So
And John, have you talked to him about your drain problem in front of?
No, I haven't.
Okay,
It's in discussion.
okay.
Yeah, I just got an email today and the county's talking about it.
So I'm not trying to jump and take things away from anybody, but I have a list of things, right, ongoing with, out between Alsea and the county, so I could
Yeah,
put
I
these
know.
drains on this list. Does anybody know anything else about, are the drains that are closer to the school working, the new ones, are they even completed yet? Any news on those, that where the kids are actually gonna cross there at Third, or what is it, Third? Okay, all right,
Kids just told me that one coming across place yesterday.
that you have a place where the ODOT needs to
Yeah,
work on the
between
ditch?
where my barn is, it's on the highway, that's next to where we.
The old
live
house?
with the blue roof. Yeah, with the blue roof, next to the Weiss place and, the Adair place.
Right between them.
Right between them, yeah, and it takes the water from the hill and brings it onto our field. It's been there for years, but they just figured out where all this water was coming from.
And so
What's the issue?
what's the problem? Like, I'm not pushing back, like, it's flooding your property?
Well, I think it went into a drain and the drain is broken down the field and so it's
Gotcha,
flooding the field. But
okay,
this also brings up something that I've told the water people. There's more water up on the hill than there is down in those wells by the river, or is this a possibility? They should look for more places for water.
There is a copious amount of water that comes off that hill.
I wouldn't know anything about it. I miss my seasonal pond. He did some clearing there, northeast of me. I don't get my seasonal pond anymore. I miss my bog plants. And so Dick, this is the drain is it? Like the park, the gravel lots there, so like where
Yeah.
is it? Is it
So.
in the lot or?
As you're going towards Merck and you're gonna turn and go alongside it,
Yeah,
so it's on this side of the corner.
so it's actually close to the sidewalk.
Yeah, and so the sidewalk's got two spots where it drops down with their yellow grid,
Okay,
and that's where the water goes. So when.
Or
it
where the
freezes
water-
Weather,
uh-huh.
that's where the water's going to go. It's an elevation problem
Okay,
and
so
I
what's
would.
not happening that should be happening? I'm sorry, my mind is not 3D.
Well, I just think you need to have it corrected before they sign off on it.
Where's the water ending up right now?
Well, it was trying to go clear to the fire hall. To the drain, because that's all the water that comes off the Merck's roof and everything, it's all gotta
Just
go.
rolling that away.
Somebody just needs to go down and look at it when we're getting a heavy rain.
Uh-huh.
Was it ODOT that signs off on it, or is?
Well, I
Benton
thought it
County
was an
involved?
ODOT project, but I found out that the county is the one.
Well, it's a partner. Yeah,
So I did some contacting. And it's been brought to their attention.
thank you so much.
Good to get it out
for
and
doing
discuss it.
that.
Yeah.
'Cause, I mean,
Yeah, but that's exactly the kind of thing we want people to come talk about at these meetings. It's like, we need to know what's going on and what we can do to help and, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So is there any action that we can take?
Yeah,
Question I have is, I understand from our last meeting here, the commissioners assured us that Alsea had $1 million grant specifically to address the sewerage problem. Well, if the sewerage is being overrun with water coming off the mountain, then
right.
maybe some of that money can be used to correct the problems that are affecting the fire hall and Arkside and, get the water through the town and into the river where it needs to be.
Right.
Mm.
So Patriot, do you know about those funds? I never have gotten that straight in I've heard so many different things that I don't know which thing is happening.
Yeah, they're maintenance.
Yeah,
They're maintenance and repair funds, but not expansion funds.
right, but did it end up getting spent on the water tank? Or
The sewage,
both?
sewer, not water, sewer is, I think, what you're talking about. Yeah, that project is substantially complete as far as I know.
But there was work done on the water tank, so is it?
Yeah, a separate project. And then Naomi was, had a question and who, had given the other public testimony on the water coming down. And then just kind of a point is, could I get the last name of the two public testifiers and then their address for the record?
Yes, you may. The first one was John Tittman.
Thank you.
Address is 19567 Alsea Highway. And it's actually Philomath, Oregon, because it's on that side of the road. And then,
97370.
thank you.
John, do you get does the AVV make it to your house? Is the new carrier bringing the AVV to your
I'm
house?
getting my mail delivered when there's enough for her to bring it over.
But I mean, does she bring the AVV to you at your place?
Yeah,
Okay,
maybe
but
I
not
might
right-
not get it as timely as the town folks do,
Okay,
but we
okay.
do get it.
okay, eventually it makes its way to you.
Oh,
We
yeah.
just didn't know who to
And I
ask.
do have a post office box, so
Mhm.
I get there.
And then,
If you wanna give your name and address, so they have you on record as speaking.
My name is Dick Ho and I live in Blodgett. And PO box is 565. And the zip is 97326.
Thank you.
And my last name is spelled HOCH.
Thank you.
Did you want to talk about something else too, Dick?
I'm just inquiring.
Okay.
It sure be. Any other public comments, discussion? Oh, me? Go for it. Yeah.
Well, I kind of did a little report that I wanted to share with people because and we passed it out, if you got a copy of it. There might be typos, I don't see it very good anymore. But anyway, I listened in to the commissioners, the state commissioners that are on the Land Use and Development Commission.
Oh,
And it was really interesting.
yeah.
And there was only a couple things. There were only like 2 or 3 people that testified, and they were all members of the Thousand Friends. One has been on there ever since I've been active in it, so he must be getting out there. Anyway, I learned that they were worried about, you know, were they doing a good job of their job, and their job seems to be to preserve this land. And so one of the ladies spoke up and she said, we preserved the land, we're doing a good job of that. But we're not making any more food, or we might not making any more farming ventures. The only farming ventures that we're, have approved, and I think she was just meaning, they're not absolutely, but you know, the majority, are wineries or breweries. So we're doing good at producing alcohol.
Expensive alcohol
Expensive alcohol, yeah,
with tax, alcohol tax on it.
yeah.
Yeah.
It might be-
Government stamp.
And, well, she was concerned. I mean, even though that wasn't part of their job, to make more farms or more food, she was kind of concerned about that. And I wish that I had signed up to testify, because I could have told her what needs to be done, and that you need more farmers, and this is what the land use system hasn't thought about, that we need to encourage younger farmers, we need more farmers. The farmers are all getting old and tired, and not all of them, but a number of them are. And the OSU, I put it on this thing so you can look it up yourself, has put out a book that you can get off the computer. You can read it online. And I put the address of it in, and it's the succession plan, and I'm to the point where I'm working on this. So I paid attention to it. I haven't read the whole thing yet. But they are recommending 3 families on the farm. The old one, like me, and then there's the one that is probably running the farm, and then there's the children, or the family. with
Well, now
children.
that's a strange kind of new idea. I never heard about anything like
Yeah,
that
no,
before.
it was in the old days.
Yeah,
And that way, well, you know, you're through 4-H and stuff, you're training the kids when they're young to take over, and the farms become a family heirloom, which is less liable to be sold off to the highest bidder or whatever, because they're special. And, so anyway, I just would recommend that people would read that and see.
and where do they find that again?
I put the address on this
Okay.
paper that
And did you send that thing to Petra? That piece of paper you have there?
no, I just did it before, but.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? So when you said she said we've done a good job protecting farmland, but there's no farming going on, are you talking about somebody from Thousand Friends? Or are you talking
No,
about
I'm
one of the
talking about
commissioners?
one of the commissioners. The Thousand Frienders were just telling the commissioners what a good job they were doing.
Yeah.
But, and so this commissioner seemed, and then she also had a comment about, the, ag tourism, as I thought you'd be.
Was this Nancy Wise? Which commissioner?
I don't know.
She was
The
at
Benton
a,
County
she was a
Commissioners or the
DLCD meeting
DLCD?
online.
This is the DLC commission. His
Oh,
boss,
oh,
right?
got it.
Commissioner Thompson made one of those comments, but Mimi, I don't want to interrupt you because your comments are excellent.
Right?
Those are great points.
Yeah.
And I apologize, I was interrupted when you said about agritourism.
That's okay. This lady, whoever it was, she said, she didn't say anything against ag tourism, it kind of like it's a matter of fact, you know, they're considering it, I guess. But she said she really didn't like the name,
Oh.
and so I thought maybe we could come up with a better name. I don't know, we thought hard enough.
Oh, it's used as agricultural tourism, but it's not a better name. The
Yeah.
fact that the word tourism is in it gives it a black.
Oh.
Well, you know what I did?
Ag internship.
When it comes to land use, tourism
Like
just
Yeah.
It's
takes,
Yeah,
Oh,
but it's an international term.
But why isn't, it doesn't make sense to me, why even use that tourism? I mean, how does that play into?
Well, because we're inviting guests to come stay on our farms or do things on our farms, pick pumpkins or shop at our farm stands. And so it's just, it's from the Italian agriturismo. And it just got adopted by Europe and then it got adopted in the States.
I see.
And nobody has come up with it.
Count as agricultural tourism?
Is what?
Hunting. Okay.
Well, it depends. So then you have to decide, is there a definition for agritourism? And sometimes it's this big and sometimes it's,
Right.
and so the tourism, because
it just means other people that aren't the farmers are on your property. They're guests.
why
They're-
is
yeah.
that?
and maybe some kind of,
Why is
that
that?
would be a good word, and I think of people like you as agriculture ambassadors.
So that'd be great if it could be.
I just
Agriculture
elevated you, I
ambassadorship.
disappointed there.
Wait, did they make a decision on that?
They did, they ruled, they made the rulings.
What did they rule?
They codified all of the, legal precedents that have been set so far on non-farm uses on farmland.
Only, so you don't know agritourism?
No, it doesn't necessarily say there's no agritourism. It
Okay.
just says it has to, and you know, he's gonna be much better with
Okay.
this than I am.
Oh, you're fine.
But it has
You guys
to
are doing
fit
great.
in with these certain categories. And Thousand Friends has been the one who's been behind codifying all of it so that it makes it easier for the counties to determine what kind of permitting and regulations they need to do. But it paints everything with one color,
Right.
which it shouldn't be. Counties are different, county to county, and it's very restrictive at this point. So it precludes farmers often from making a viable living on their farm. And Thousand Friends feels that if you can't make a good living on your farm, you should go get another job. Go get a real job. So, and I was told that to my face.
Yeah.
So
But nationally, it's kind of changing.
it's changing. It depends on what state you're in, but most of the states are going, oh, let's save our farmers by saving our farmland by saving our farmers.
And what does Thousand Friends, how do they interact with corporate farms? Do they say the same thing to them?
They're pretty upset about all the solar farms that are coming in. I mean, they have other issues besides us little agritourism people.
No, I mean corporate farming, is that what are they a mouthpiece for
No,
huge
I-
holdings or? You don't know?
I don't know the answer to that question, although they do help with consolidation. Small farms, big farms, but I don't know that that's one of their angles. really.
Well, I had one of the planners tell me one time, and we did this from the county, not from the state, but that little farmers needed to get bigger. Farmers like big equipment, so they needed to have more farms, so they should put the farms together and so they could run their big.
Well, wasn't it get bigger, get out? Wasn't that the?
Yeah,
I would tell the government, get small and get out.
Yeah,
I'm being smart, Alex,
Yeah.
but I mean,
and,
yeah.
well, in this instance, it's
And more local
right.
control.
Well, that's right. So anyway, I'm sorry I missed that. I didn't realize. Thousand Friends is so organized. That's part of our problem. We're not very organized as farmers.
All right.
And so they always speak up, always.
Are you
Yeah.
signed up for the notices on my website?
Yeah, I
you're
mean,
just
I've
busy.
spoken up on some of the stuff, but I didn't think that
But
this
Farm
was.
Bureau, I'm surprised, I didn't know about it, and I'm in the Farm Bureau. They didn't mention this at all,
No,
and they just get worked up about things, and they get worked up about the tax, right? So they're very, so anti-governmental, they don't even consider this small guys, frankly.
no.
So I kind of ended my thing because I just thought that that was the time maybe to bring up my thought that what I would like, my dream, I guess, is to be able to organize find if there's people here, it may only be my idea, nobody else's. But if we could turn our little farms into something where it's kind of a farm to table type of thing, where we grew the stuff, processed the stuff, sold the stuff, maybe on the internet or whatever. And I would like to form like a growers association. I don't really know what to call it, but
Co-op.
of my friends and neighbors in the Alsea Valley and have these little farms be productive.
Well, did you
Isn't
read
that
that
like a
article in
drain
the Rural
situation?
Light about that? In Hood River?
No,
Okay. That's it. It didn't copy off though, cause I had color in the background, but it was, does anyone read the Rural Light?
I do.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
I love it.
Yeah, but there was a couple issues back in the Rural Light, they organized a cooperative. But everybody had to go into the warehouse and work and volunteer, but enable these smaller farms instead of trying to be one thing to everybody, it can have all these people that can cover, selling to grocery stores at a continuous way. And, with this, and everybody get the cut out of it, out of the profits, but they have to contribute labor in the management of it also. But in Hood River, that felt that was a good model. Private. The other thing is what Mimi is talking about, but it's not reflecting here on, Hillcrest over here, anyway, they have a small truck farm and they go to a farmer's market every week or twice a week. And, but there's not anything for LC itself, but anyway, something we could look into. There's these hoop house farms out in Corvallis that are a big thing now, but they're selling to grocery stores and the restaurants.
Well, just look at Gathering Together. Look at all those who passes. It's right as you drive in before you go on.
Right.
I mean, they figured that out. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, in terms of people out here pulling together, the problem is distribution. Where are you gonna, how are you gonna get it over the mountain? There's not enough of us out here to just buy directly from
I think
ourselves.
kind of the crux of it is more than one home. One thing, one major principle, living on the land.
Yeah.
You have help to produce what needs to be produced in order to be
Right.
sustained.
and I'm kind of,
But the laws prohibit.
right, right,
So I think that's kind of.
right,
Zoning.
that's part of it. But I do have, I've always been interested in the freeze drying. And if you can freeze dry it and sell it, at whether it's farmers markets or whatever, go in a competition with Mountain House, you might. And it so happens that, one of the guys that works in Albany at the big freeze dryer place, his family's from Alsea. And yeah, and he's a good friend of my grandson. So I got kind of I'm gonna talk to him.
Have an annex out there.
Well, if you could get a manufacturer out here, right, then those of us that grow too much stuff could send it there, or
Concerning freeze dry, Naomi Shadwick is an expert in that.
But we don't need any change in laws to do that,
No,
but we do need
we need
change in laws to
have
do.
the people to live on the
Some
property.
workers,
yes,
right.
people to do the work.
Workers.
Yeah.
So we'll just toss out, and it's long enough ago, who knows if it still applies, but at least 10 years ago at the Small Farms Conference at OSU. They had one session that were food brokers from Portland and Salem, and they not only were saying, tell me what you have, I'll buy whatever it is. They had lists of what the restaurants were asking them for, so that you could produce, like, the guy wanted somebody to fill an order, of 750 turkeys. Right, for next Thanksgiving. So just a thought that actually that was state ag people and business people, that panel was. And I thought it was fantastic. So there's that direct, it could see the different ways that could interconnect, like you could do the turkeys even without a co-op, for instance. But ways to figure out how things can get marketed that we're producing.
So Extension is producing a number of tracks this winter. It's all about that. How as a meat producer can I find other places to sell to? How as a crop producer can you find other places? So Extension's gotten pretty involved in that, which would have come out of that Small Farms Conference.
Yeah,
So that's around. It's just, as Janet said, you can't turn out enough people to like grow it or take care of it because they can live out here.
that's a lot of
It's
turkey
because
next to
yeah,
bring.
Mimi's just kind of lazy and she won't
Right.
farm very much.
Exactly. She just wants little ponies.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay.
Well, that's a lot of turkey next to ring, isn't it? 750.
Any other public comments?
I have stuff, people have been contacting me, which I'm glad about. But I've had a few different people, so I guess Dick and John, I'm on the planning commission for Benton County. So I'm not on this committee, but I work alongside this committee. So this list of things that need work, right? I have that ongoing list of things. People have gotten in touch with me about water quality in the village. And we tried to do some sleuthing. And we were you know what I mean? Like we were literally unsuccessful in our sleuthing. But I've had more than one person contact me about it. And the sleuthing I was trying to do was, is it better or worse since the work was done up on the tank? That kind of thing we were trying to find. We weren't able to find that stuff out, so we'll keep trying to find that out. But more than one person has talked about that. I have great water at my place, but apparently when you get on down to the other side of town, not so good.
I have horrible water. It's
Yeah, but you and I have different water sources.
city water.
She's on city.
I know,
Although
I thought we sorted this out one time,
she
and
gets it before it goes up the hill and sits in the
yeah.
tank.
And
So
then-
it's very.
So we don't
Part of
work.
the time, and the other part of the time I get it when it comes down out of the tank. So
You
I
get both.
I have both directions,
Yeah, you have both.
but I'll tell you, it goes to two houses on my place. In the modular, there's black muck in the tank behind where ordinarily it should be clean water. When you flush the toilet, now all these black things comes up.
Right. And that's what's coming down the tank to you?
I have no idea.
You don't know, okay.
But I have a call into them and they come when they read the meters and I'm gonna show it to them.
Okay,
I'll let them know what he said.
all right.
And I need to change my filters to be part of the problem.
Yeah.
But I think maybe they plugged them up when they cleaned the tank.
That's what I was wondering. It seems like there's always a flushing that needs to happen, and who knows whether there even was a flushing.
And for anybody that's curious, that fact that there was a porta potty out at the front gate does not mean that I don't have plumbing. It means that was there for their workers.
And Then the other concern people have contacted, and I have this same concern. I live on 34 in the village. This is somebody who lives on the other end of the village in 34. And this might tie in with the work that Naomi's doing about highway safety on the 20. We have more and more cars coming through town, and fewer of them are touching their brakes while they're here. It's
Well, even though there's those new crosswalks, I would have thought they would have slowed down because of those.
Well,
They
they're
don't
not,
even notice.
they don't, that hasn't happened, they're not really there yet, so.
Well, now there's
hopefully-
a new flashing speed limit sign on.
I know they're putting one in it by my place too.
Yeah, there's one now on.
Well, that should help.
West.
But we'll see if it does.
Slow people down.
Well, we'll see if it does help. I hope it helps. I
Yeah.
hope it helps.
But something at least.
Right.
Or putting swear words on slow. Jam.
Well, I mean, this is the thing about the small towns, like, I feel like I could write an article called The Importance of Bench Sitting. Because Les Hockham would go throw himself in front of the cars when they were going too fast. Literally, because he wanted them to slow down before they got to the school. So, yeah,
I have
Well,
stairs.
today they put up the solar powered big sign. I didn't take a picture, but it says slow down.
on this side,
On
that
on
side?
the west end.
okay, and it's like installed,
It's installed,
I gotta
looks
see this.
great, and you
Okay.
cannot miss it.
That should be effective.
I mean, if a driver's going too fast and that thing's flashing at him,
Yeah.
he better put his foot on the brakes or he'll get a big ass ticket.
right,
Take
or
pictures.
run over someone.
You know, they have cameras that can record
Run over someone.
these things. And
And
So is it all right?
I think your ticket.
Well,
They
is
got
there
the
gonna
lights
be-
on though.
Is there gonna be one going the other direction? Oh, there,
I believe so.
okay.
I believe so.
And so you know the answer to what they're gonna put here, but for the school?
I do not know.
Okay,
I just saw that as I came into town today and I was downtown.
They're
I
putting
saw
a
that,
base.
I saw that light that they put up right there.
Oh, no, I
in front
don't
of
know.
the Bank.
oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to check that out
There's a
tonight.
cross light?
It's it's actually a light, a street light that goes over the street between, I know.
You want it and you don't want it.
I
Now you can't say you live in a town where there's no
I know.
stoplights.
Well, no, it's not a
Not a
stoplight,
stoplight.
it's a street light.
Street light, you know, just light for children to walk across.
Oh, in the dark, rather than being run over by cars?
Yes,
Gotcha, I love it. Yay!
that there's no anything to slow anybody down. I mean,
Well, let's see how these flashing signs work. I mean, I spoke with an officer when he would bring the one out here and park it up by the old Tom store, and he says they actually, no?
Oh, I'm just not you. Sorry.
So I'm hoping that will, be a deterrent.
I was having all these visuals of things we could do to slow people
Oh,
down.
I do.
That's why I was
do too.
laughing.
Yep.
Yeah, all the
Yep.
different things we could do.
Get out
There's
of
always
my
trying to be.
Now that we don't have less
We'll
anymore.
wait till we're not on the recording. and then-
Yeah, it's a problem. So I guess the thing is, so I am not a voting member of the CAC and I don't want to muscle my way in. I want to support and facilitate and liaison and the different things that ACAC does, but are you all right with me adding these things to that ongoing list of stuff that we need to get sorted out? And anytime anybody has anything, let me know and I'll put it on the list, because we've got an actual list of things that need to be done.
Well, our focus has always been zoning,
Right.
however. If we could get some of that relief or after, then some of these kind of things come into play.
Right, well, then at least the county knows what we need, rather than them not knowing what we need. And I'm seeing progress, I mean, some things have happened, we got the generator back, you know what I mean, we're getting this project with getting the kids more safely across the highway, things are happening, that are positive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's it, okay, I'll add those things to the list. And, yeah.
So Patrick, you're here. Do you have comments? Our only orders of business are to approve the minutes, and I don't know if Patriot plans to do the little primer on, the zoning or not tonight.
Well, The packet went out before I got an RSVP from Patrick, so I put my name on there as a catch-all, but if Patrick's here, I think he's prepared to talk about the zoning options. And I did send out in your packet, a deliverable, which was your request from last month, was to put, that table together, which was a list of all the permitted uses and all the conditional uses in residential, village residential and village commercial. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have about that, but that should be a good resource for you. It doesn't really need any explanation unless you are unable to read it.
That's so funny, because you know, when I looked at it, I thought, oh, this is a great table. I wish I had any idea what it was telling me. Yeah, and I don't mean anything by that, I don't mean that as a criticism, it just made me laugh when you said if I can read it.
Yeah, no, I can take you through it, but I mean, I'd like to certainly give Patrick the time
Yeah.
that he needs with you all.
Yeah. Patrick, do you need an introduction? Will you introduce yourself so that folks know your role? And I'm just really glad that Patrick is here, because I will say that in another meeting, he jumped up and said, I'm really excited. I would really like to help. So here he is. Here he is.
Well,
He's excited.
well,
Yeah.
hold the applause. So, thank you for the opportunity. Again, I'm Patrick Wingard. I'm with the Department of Land Conservation Development. Mimi was mentioning my commission, the Land Conservation Development Commission, so I'm a land use planner. I want to start from the last comment I heard, and
What's your position there?
I'm a regional representative, so I'm your field rep. I live in Springfield. So, yeah, thank you for that. I cover Lane, Lynn, Benton, and sometimes Lincoln counties.
Okay.
My background is very much small city planning. I was state planner for Murray Creek, down in Douglas County, Warrenton up on the north coast, Clatsop County's manager. So a lot of my work before joining the state was focused on small cities, towns, unincorporated communities, just like you all are here. I'd like to hear from you what the problem is with the zoning, and I will take notes. I will take notes.
Well, my opinion or what I've noticed over
Your
the last
truth that you come to meetings and tell.
30 or 45 years here,
Mhm.
that we're dying. We can't grow. We are in a resource area. We have our town zone and it's pretty tight.
Mhm.
And it's small lots, you know, things that people don't want. And you leave that zone and you have EFU or you have forest conservation, that's it.
Mhm.
It's a small patch of rural residential. And it, well, I don't need to go into that, but it's built out, it's not even close to town, it's,
Sure.
you know, it's 10 miles west.
Can I ask, why your opinion is nobody wants to live on the small lots?
Well, it's just what I hear. I am a realtor. I mean, I just hear it all.
Because what that tells me is nobody wants to live in town.
Right, people
That's-
come to Alsea to live in a rural setting. Most
So
of the time.
I'm surprised to hear that you wouldn't want to focus more on populating those small lots.
That's where I come in.
Okay,
I've developed two. And the one that I want to develop, which would be a single wide home with its own land.
Yeah.
But when we scarified and took off the sod, we had, like Dick said, two springs, you know, popped up.
yeah,
And so that water needs to be remediated. I work closely with Jason of Hughes that lives in Alsea. So that can be taken care of, but if someone has a choice of being in a condo or an apartment with thin walls and noise and shouting.
Yeah.
Where out here they can have their own home, affordable.
right.
Then I've had no trouble selling the two that I put in, west of here a little bit. And, looking forward to putting in a single, and the sheriff is all for it, and we need more housing for teachers.
You
And
bet,
we need
yeah.
more housing for, like Mimi says.
workforce.
And so
Right.
Yeah, we
instead
can't
of
support,
making
we
them
can't
have
staff our
5 acres,
services.
just permit a home for a son, grandson, longtime worker,
Mhm.
so they can have other people helping to manage the farm.
But that's only if you,
The sewer
So the
system is
pro-
not-
That's in the village.
except
oh,
for-
but what, oh, you mean so they could live in the village and then come out and work in our places? Is that what you mean?
No, so they could have, like, your Leaping Limbs, right?
Right,
And
right.
so if you needed some help,
They could
have
live
a,
out there.
have a small home built or a
Right.
manufactured home.
Right.
Where your help or your family, cousins, nephews,
Right.
whatever, could
Right.
live.
Right.
We need more housing both outside and inside, and there's very little that can be developed in the community of Alsea.
And it's not a
Thank you.
matter of land. We can't add any more to our water and sewer system in town. We have one more, that's what I was told, one more connection available.
Really.
And that's used up.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I hear it, it's gonna take a big bond to get that expanded and able to add more homes in the village zone, either commercial or residential. I mean, one hookup is just one hookup, whether it goes one way or the other, it doesn't matter. That's,
So if you
that's the
compare,
barrier you come to, we're done.
if you compared zoning to infrastructure, do you think zoning is a bigger problem, or do you think the condition of your water and sewer systems are a bigger problem when it comes to new development, fostering new development? Is it the zoning that's holding you back, or is it the water and sewer situation that's holding you back?
Is zoning.
Well, isn't it the infrastructure?
How would zoning fix the infrastructure?
It
Well,
can't.
Well, so the
Right.
infrastructure problem is in the village,
Yeah.
but just the town of Alsea.
Mhm.
The zoning is the, everywhere else.
The ag
Base.
land, because
The ag,
you
yeah.
could have
This-
120 acres and you can't build another house.
So this is an interesting group, because how many of you all live inside of Alsea? With show of hands,
Just me,
just you.
and I'm the only person who's come to any of these meetings,
So this is really more about the valley.
largely
Oh,
This is
landowners
about
here.
the
yeah.
farmland and the forest land.
And so for me, coming here, seeing Alsea, Community, Action Committee, or, I'm thinking about the Alsea focus, but what I'm hearing is this conversation needs to be elevated, broadened
Yes,
to the rural lands.
Okay,
So
so,
here-
I know, so there we go. The definition of Alsea to those of us who live here, may I speak,
25 square.
is this valley and Lobster. And it goes about to the Lincoln County line, and then it goes about to the summit over there.
Yep.
Yeah, so our zip code, but that leaves out some folks like the Titmans along the, side of the highway between here and the summit. But when we talk, I think when the community of Alsea says Alsea, that's what we're all thinking about. So it's
Okay.
like our zip code, our school district. What's the other piece? Our the tax, don't look at the,
Yeah, sure.
yeah, it's not.
Rural fire district pretty much covers
Yeah,
it.
yes, there you go. So the
That
fire
makes you,
department.
that makes you a little unique in my experience, in that my work on the North Coast, my work down in Douglas County in Southern Oregon. Most of the people that would be at this meeting would be residents of the unincorporated community.
Right.
Because there are so few homes, because of the rural zoning that we impose on counties that really limit, as you all have already, stated quite well, those opportunities. I feel like we need some education on exclusive farm use and the 50+ uses that you can do in exclusive farm use, including 8 different types of farm work housing that is allowed in exclusive farm use. I think there are some ways that housing can be added to farms that perhaps Benton County could look at in a similar light to other counties who have done what's called a quote unquote go below standard, a less than 80 acre minimum standard. You all have already shared with me that you used to have an RC zone, I believe, that was beloved, and you'd like to have that back.
MPA,
MPA, thank you, not the RC. And that stands for
multi-purpose agriculture.
multi-purpose agriculture. So in 93, and I bet Petra, your staff is well aware of sort of the history and chronology over time. And largely it's because of community members like Thousand Friends and others who are interested in preserving farmland. You know, that's really the focus.
But they don't want people farming on it.
Can I borrow your book?
You can have.
So
Oh, no, you can't have that.
Dirt to Soil by Gabe Brown recognizes the 5 principles of soil health. I've written a paper that's gotten absolutely nowhere to try to promulgate through Gabe Brown, his science, to allow communities like yours to have more flexibility. And Petra, forgive me because I haven't talked to you about this. So Petra will need to reel me in, but just hear me out on this. If farmers are looking at increasing soil health, increasing topsoil, and meat, cattle, delicious food is a byproduct, that's a different conversation than agritourism. And I would like to approach, and it's great you've got that book, one of my favorite books. I have it in my office and I reference it when I'm talking to farmers, because there could be a way, I believe, to approach with OSU Extension and other community members, a way to look at farming in the 21st century through a lens of profit, not yield. Because right now, we seem to all be worried about yield. We got to have more head of cattle. We got to have more land. We got to have more. But what I'm hearing here, and I am absolutely drinking this Kool-Aid myself, that where we're missing out are the small farmers. That by this focus on land preservation, by this focus on yield over profit, that we're really missing an opportunity to empower farmers on 2 acres, 5 acres, 10 acres. I will go to work for you every day of the week on this issue, but I will tell you, I have gotten almost nowhere on this in my now 12 years with the department, because of concerns about conflicting uses. Well, if you open up the opportunity for more housing on the land, if you lessen the regulations and you allow more housing, what's that going to do to your farming opportunities? Potentially cause conflicts and create more challenges for the farmers who need to spray, who need to, you know, create dust, who have vibrating equipment, have smells. And so that's always the natural tension. But I'm gonna give the floor back to you all, because you spent 20 minutes, I think, really speaking to what our commission spent 4 hours deliberating on, is how to make our working lands work for everybody. So I would like to work with the planning commission, and I'll talk to Petra, your staff, and I think I would love to bring this conversation to you all, to the valley here, and see if there might be some things that we could do. I have some ideas. I could share with you a paper I developed based upon the 5 principles of soil health, and it was to allow, through a clear and objective lens, farmers to develop smaller lots.
As smaller lots, as
Farms.
a small scale farm.
Yes.
And they're allowed to put a house on it?
Yes, we would measure with OSU Extension's help topsoil. We would establish a baseline of the amount of topsoil that's on the property in 2025, your baseline year, and then every year you measure the topsoil, because you're grazing at density. You've got ruminants, you've got cows and goats, and you know I think you're a pretty sophisticated group here. You know, you've got the hooved animals that have the special ruminant chamber, so they can actually take grass and produce manure, new topsoil out of it. So I think if you pivot the focus from traditional farming and again, yield, and instead say, hey, we're more focused on profit. We want the valley to be profitable. We want our farmers, our small farmers, to be profitable. I think that is a great start. Looking at Gabe Brown's 5 principles of soil health. And thank you.
It's really, you're talking the same thing.
I can tell I'm among friends here. And even though I am in an organization that has regulations, I am not somebody who believes that every regulation has a role and should be expanded on. I don't disagree that there are times, or I would agree with you, there are times when we need to pull back. And we need to give the flexibility back to the property owners, just like we're doing with housing. We're saying no more of this, that's a modular and that's a manufactured home and no, they're dwellings. If they meet
Correct.
building code, they meet building code. So we're getting away with, well, if you have a manufactured home, you have to have a 3-on-12 pitch and you have to have this and that, it's gotta be compatible. We've through the legislature removed those discretionary standards because the not in my backyard, the NIMBY, if you will, mindset has not allowed housing development to occur at a pace that we need it to occur. So we're playing the long game here in Oregon, if you will, on housing now and through agriculture. I would really like to continue this or be part of this conversation and help you elevate it. Now I understand that this is more of a valley conversation, which is really cool because
Couple valleys. Yeah, couple
And the
valleys.
hillsides.
And the hillsides.
because that's what
And all
the
those
land
things.
use program was meant to do in 1973. And the great bargain, which is why I'm here for you, is if we're gonna require counties to zone all your farmers and not allow you to have housing like you would like to have, and then we're gonna have to provide assistance and guidance on how to survive, ensure that your village is viable and successful. And at this point, you know, I would offer that we've got some work to do in that regard. So, those are my initial thoughts. You
Your
guys have
initial
given me a
thoughts.
ton to think about.
Well, and let me just toss this back to you, and this is my drum I've been beating, and you've heard me beat it before. Why can't these unincorporated villages, why can't we house our own community? You know, we need to staff the farms, we need to staff the school, we need to staff the clinic.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's all this other stuff that's important, like the work you're doing, but this is my drum. So why can't we staff our own community? Why can't we house our own community? And how can we house our own community? Comes back to the infrastructure. I got you that we're talking about a long-term investment in some housing in this community. And by this community, I mean, could be in the village, could be in a new tract of land, could be that we spread them out in these small farm sort of setups. My point is, I'm not hung up like on the how, I just wanna get to where we don't have to have everybody drive over the hill to come to work, they don't wanna do it, and they
Right.
never stay. Yeah,
And the one thing I'd add, we can't even, you know, accommodate housing for, you know, one graduate of Alsea a year.
Yeah.
I mean, so even if a young kid wants to start a family here, somebody's gotta die,
yep,
basically.
they literally can't
Yeah.
stay,
Right.
Patrick, they
And that's the
can't stay.
truth. I mean, I
Yes.
hate to say it, but
It's not an exaggeration. It's
I
true.
mean, that's how I got my place. I mean, honestly,
Mhm.
I mean, it's not a good thing, but you know,
You gotta be on the list.
you're on, I was on the list.
When
I
I
was
was
the
here,
first one on it. That's the only reason I got it.
when I was here 2 months ago, I heard, man, and how you have such these tensions. I heard that we need more housing.
Mhm.
And somebody in this group, it was a bigger group 2 months ago, commented that we need to address the condition of the current housing stock in Alsea before we start looking at new lands to develop. What do you guys think about that?
I thought you said that.
That wasn't me. That was not
Can
me.
you tell me what you mean by that question a little bit? Like drop down to one depth and tell me. Talking about actually.
How do you feel, how is the housing stock, the current housing stock here in Alsea?
Do you mean like structural?
Yes.
Sound, that
Yeah.
kind of stuff?
Insulation, roofing, is it generally in good condition? Is it generally in poor condition? Does it vary?
That was Holly, yeah,
I
okay.
would say it's below average.
Yeah.
There's a lot of older homes.
And then Ted's cousin, Joe, is saying, what are all these 2-story houses that are built with blackberries? And no one's, I mean, legally, as far as I know, those still could be houses, because was it 18 years now, they sort of abandoned house or whatever, you can still have a house on it, but no one's doing anything with those
In Hamden.
existing houses here.
In the
On both
village.
sides, huh?
The rule might still be on the books, but if your house burned down and you were on a 2-acre place burned down, if it wasn't rebuilt within 1 year,
You can't.
you
build.
lost all.
Outside the
rights.
village.
And that's
Yeah.
BS, that
Yeah.
needs to be thrown out. And
Yeah.
maybe you can help on that.
Yeah, outside the village, that does come into play. If it's a non-conforming use, if it was a house that was built in an area, could be a floodplain or something like that. Inside the village, that wouldn't be the case. But you're right, and, I've worked in wildfire recoveries and those rules have gotten lightened up a little bit, but they're still there. Like 12 months has gone to 36 months. You have like 3 years to rebuild, or if there's a wildfire declaration, then you have 5 years to
Well,
rebuild.
this
It's
case
a
was
problem.
just across the river. Been a suicide, in fact, there ended up 2 suicides, but they had a septic system. The house had been there for a long time. I'm thinking of, the first place right across the, bridge here. Used to be Biddle.
The Benton's one?
Across from Benton.
Oh, I know what you mean.
How we-
The Planet Sinker owns it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now the property is owned by the outfit that buys up land for fishing,
Yeah, the Planet Sinker.
right? But it was an example, it was a perfect building spot. It didn't flood, it was up high, and, they lost the right to build on it.
I see.
Well, and so did the O'Briens. They lost
Sarah,
money
I would be
by
interested in
paying.
what the planning commission, how the planning commission would feel about the Alsea Valley community approaching Benton County about the need for smaller lots to create farms, and that's why I mentioned Gabe Brown and the principles of soil health. There has to be some way to ensure that you just don't end up building McMansions on 5 acres. Right? I don't think anybody here really wants to see that, right?
I don't think we can control.
Well, the
that.
county.
To me, that is what it is. Build what you want.
Is what it is.
I
Yeah.
mean,
You can't,
Sorry.
tell people they have to.
No, that's
farm.
fair. That's,
So say it's a teacher that wants to come out, or it's somebody else, they may want to have their own little garden, but they might not want to farm in 5 acres.
right.
So, but they still need the space, and, or it's children of a family that want to come and they want to live where they grew up, but they might work in town.
So more rural residential zoning.
what I see is value in rural residential and maybe not even 5 acres, just
Oh,
2.
no.
You have 2
Is it
acres.
allows a homeowner to have a well and a septic, there's
Right.
enough room for it, because our town can't handle anybody
Right.
on it. So somehow we've got to move into other areas.
Do you believe the viability of the village is dependent on productive farmland outside of the village?
Oh, this is a logging community.
I was hoping you would have said yes to that.
I say yes, Patrick.
Because if you
I'm
said yes to
right
that,
with you.
that would give you a hook to approach the county about saying, hey, let's lighten up on some of this zoning and here's why.
Well, here's
But if
why,
you-
because even if we intensely farmed every inch of farmable, tillable land, it's not the majority of the land out here. The majority is in timber, in the
Yep.
hills, in the timber.
Well, and also the majority of the land, the reason it was MPA is it's not great soils. So it's not great to be growing crops. Now, we can all do livestock,
Yeah,
but it's not
This-
a crop driven valley at all.
this place, and historically, there was a creamery, and it was
Yeah.
the lifeblood of the community for a very long time. I'm not from
And some
here,
dairies.
anybody feel free to correct me when I get stuff wrong. I have a specific question, and I don't wanna derail what's happening here, but I feel like it dovetails with what we're talking about. Can we go back in time? Like, can we do things like regain our multi-purpose ag zoning? Can we, you see what I'm saying? Like, you know of a lot that there's a perfectly good septic sitting there not getting used. I think, Dick, you were mentioning you knew about a lot that could be used in various different ways. Like, everybody knows these things. Can we identify those and get those viable again?
It is possible. I mean, it is a very high bar. What you're talking about is a goal exception. So taking an exception to the farming or forest rules that establish an 80-acre minimum or really tamp down on housing in forest land or housing in farmland. But it's possible.
I'm talking about going back to historic use
Well,
of the
and
same.
I think
piece
you
of
would
property.
follow the lead from Lane County and Washington County in establishing marginal lands and doing what I mentioned before, a go below quote unquote, go below 40 acre to justify the need for smaller parcels. But I'm thrown off by you saying, no, we don't really, the village really
But what
doesn't
if we
need
did
a
it
bunch of
over?
productive
Here's one
farms.
place, the LCDC, when they came in, they put a blanket over everything.
Right.
Now, if you make an exception for small unincorporated communities, and there's, you know of a number, then maybe that would be more palatable to the entire board. Make an exception for places like Alsea and Blodgett and others like it. And
It could be an overlay.
maybe someday we could be another
Sisters?
north of Corvallis, Adair.
Oh,
Adair village went from just some old,
Incorporated. Nobody here wants.
They got a darn good city manager.
oh, I know.
So,
But could there be a
and then
special
he,
kind of overlay? You know, they do agritourism
Mhm.
overlays in other
Yeah.
states.
That
So
would
could it
be
be an
another way.
Alsea overlay or a, you know, some of the rural, something that would take the kind of land we have here and the kind of community where we
Mhm.
have this little, you know, and then we have farmland.
Especially out in Lobster Valley.
It could be
They
used
got
then
a
as
lot of
an
land.
example around
Yeah.
the rest of them.
so when you have the opportunity, like I have, excuse me, to talk with people from other 1A school districts, and because it's very sweet. They get together, all of them get together. I love it. Like there are these,
I was in the jewel
Events,
district for a while.
there
so I know.
are these events that are statewide and they're 1A and they all get together and it's so great because
Mhm.
I love it for the kids because they look around and everybody's like them. They're like, oh, everybody's like me.
Yeah.
So, but as I talked to the different, I was doing research. I was meeting people and doing research. We're all telling the same story. This is Alsea specific. We have things like the multipurpose ag, but they have the same thing. They can't house their staff for the school. They
Mhm.
can't house the staff for their clinic, and they're worse off than we are. They're in the middle of nowhere somewhere, and they can't house their people. There's no way people are gonna commute into their town.
Right.
Cause it's 100 miles from where there's any housing. So I really see this as a statewide issue. I don't know how easy it would be to organize unincorporated communities across the state. Because people are unincorporated for a reason, but, I think it's a part, I wish it were part of the housing discussion that we were having statewide. And I've tried to make noise about it and so far.
Yeah, it's ebbed and flowed through the policy conversations at the state level about rural housing. I'm very interested in this topic, which is why I'm here, and I will continue to come, but I wanna make sure I understand. I don't quite understand the viewpoint of this group yet, because
We may not all agree.
Oh,
Yeah, we don't all agree.
Almost opposite
Or
sides of
I would
the
say
fence.
more, we have the things we're really passionate about. Like you can hear what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about,
If you
Yeah.
could make a half a day and hook up with Janet, who has the freedom of being a realtor and living here for 45 years or more, then she could physically drive you around and show you what would help.
I would.
So you'd have in your mind, you would see what we're talking about and understanding. And that goes from our poor drainage here to homes that, weren't rebuilt within a year. And I think that would really raise your understanding where you could communicate it clearly to your compadres on the thing.
yeah, thank you. I know you're right.
I'll give you one too. So the MPA, which is for only the Alsea area of Benton County, right?
Okay.
In the definition, it states that only half of the parcels in MPA are actually conditional. So the other ones do not meet the standard of MPA by the definition.
Is that zone still in the books?
It's still on the books.
Yeah, but it's considered EFU. It's
Right.
treated as EFU.
It's treated as EFU.
Yeah.
But is that still our own zone, not EFU? So so it says within the MPA, it gives, it's a 20-acre parcel. That's the only difference. But is that zone, MPA, our zone? So is it a farm zone or is it a zone that we can make changes to? Like, that's not, forest zone or EFU, which, we can't make changes to.
It's subject to EFU.
Is
It's
it?
basically an EFU zone now.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not speaking to whether that's right or wrong, but it's effectively an EFU zone now. I will tell you, I think that was Commissioner Thompson.
What?
From LCDC. You have a commission at the state level now who is most interested in the localized, like it was mentioned, every community is different. I would offer that you will have success in this conversation by staying focused on the Alsea Valley, on the Lobster Valley, appreciate the other communities' issues, and you could certainly speak to how your issues relate to others around the state, because there clearly is a common thread. But you all are in a different place here with, Waldport, Philomath, your location in the valley. The water situation here, I think I would like to go out and look at some of the landscape, because I heard the comment about at the outset that the water's coming down off the hill and it needs to be in the river where it belongs. Wetland advocates would disagree with that comment. Was it you, sir, that made that comment?
No, but I can tell you that if it misses the drain,
Mm-hmm.
where does it go?
Yeah.
Everywhere. I know,
Okay,
I
so
was driving through it on the way
It
here.
goes on to some other taxpayer's property,
Mm-hmm.
so. You're not gonna get the county to come out and cure the problem.
No, I think the land has to be allowed to help cure the problem.
And that is what a lot of people are here for, is because they're trying to stick up for themselves.
Mhm.
If somebody else caused that
Well,
problem.
actually, I'm trying to get water on my, okay,
But
the 100 acres I have. I'm trying to restore it back. I'm getting paid government money to do a lot of it. But, and my place wouldn't count, frankly, as the 80 acres. Anyway, so that I can have that water for native trees that have agricultural use, which happens,
Well, you guys have every
I
issue.
say,
that
we're,
you
no,
could
we're
possibly have
We
completely
do,
here.
Patrick, literally.
We do.
other
It's-
sides of things.
It's fifth grade.
I think it
yeah,
can be
Mhm.
social studies.
unified, so I'm trying to get basically a ditch that's down, and it's like up to 6 feet deep, to get it filled up enough so that it'll have water on my field, because it's not gonna be pasture anymore. And, it was good pasture, but it got trashed, and anyway,
Is it
so-
tile, is it tiled and drained?
no, it's just, it's not a nice slope,
Okay.
and it's good soil, but, got invasive annual bromes,
Mm.
50 to 90%.
Okay.
And it's not worth it to do hay, it costs way more money than we'd ever get out of it.
Okay.
So I looked into, non-tilling things, so you have maple syrup, which is what, the ag extension OSU is promoting.
Mhm.
But, chitim trees are an agricultural crop, and elderberry is, so is Oregon grape,
Mhm.
especially ag, and I followed along with this stuff, whatever, Gabe Brown, and that I found out about any of this 40 years ago. So I'm having, but my maple trees are this tall, okay? My chitim trees are now about that tall.
Mhm.
So I'll be 90, 85 or 90 before they grow, but they do better in the shade of the ash and stuff, and they don't, and where there's more water than when it dries out in the summertime. So I want to have water going across my property.
Mhm.
And also just kind of, you think it all runs downhill, but there's uphill, there's a pond, and downhill it's dry, it's, but,
Yeah, it's complex out
it's,
here, no
yeah,
doubt.
it's complex. And then my other two bits is, Alsea was doing, it was a logging community, but they cut down all trees. And when they closed the ranger station, how many years ago was that?
Long time.
Long time, that's when the town started dying. And there's those 7 people that work there that brought in the extra money that you could have, so 2 restaurants. And,
Couple of gas stations.
well, a couple grocery stores.
Yep.
But, it's declined then, so just bringing people out here, in my opinion, to live isn't gonna solve the problem of having people being able to have money enough to do it. And, okay, 4th bit. When houses burn down here, people don't have the money to build up a new house. It's just like that one that blew up there in the middle of town. Before most people were here, the propane tank went off, and they just ended up putting a trailer there, they couldn't afford to build a house. And the people that can afford to build a house basically they put a horse on it, a ranchette. And it's not, quite what people envision.
Families need
Being
a
here,
succession
yeah.
plan, just
Right,
like
that's
farmers need a
that's
succession plan.
So I'm with you, Keita, and I want to say that we didn't bring up the fact, I feel, and I am literally learning as I go along. I'm not from here. I wish, anyway, I didn't even grow up in Oregon, right? But I grew up rural in a different state. I feel like, as an outsider looking in, that part of the problem for the larger community, but it might be village specific in certain ways, is that when the normal vagaries of economics and all the parts of sociology happen, the community can't effectively respond and adapt to the changes that take place because of the stranglehold. Is it the land use? Is it the lack of infrastructure? You know what I mean? I think it's all these things. And I'm with Janet, like that. I was looking for the piece. I'm like, what's the missing piece? And Janet showed up at this meeting and I went, oh my God, that's the missing piece. But we have energy, we have ideas, we have economic resources. We can't do any of it.
Yeah.
Literally without being in complete abeyance of these regulations. And then when I fall back and say about housing quality inside the village itself, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but we had quite a few young families come out during the pandemic, you know what I mean? And brought some kids to the school system, which is cool, but folks are buying them up and fixing them up. Like I have fixed my place up.
Right.
I can think of several other people who are fixing on their places. We do have a few rental units that I understand are in pretty poor quality. If you ever get inside one of them, I haven't been inside them.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's all. Does anybody else have anything to say about any of that? And I think that aren't most of the houses in town owned rather than rented? Do you think that's true? I think that's
Most
true.
of them. There's a few that are rentals, but
Yeah,
most of them are owned.
yeah.
Do the
So,
pupils at the school here, are they all drawn from the valley? If you live in Lobster, if you live up, would you go to Alsea if you chose a public
We
school?
drive kids here from Walport.
Yeah.
We bring them here from, used to be Junction City, they go out to Philomath and pick up.
Cause I don't need to
kids.
tell you what an economic engine a good school is, right? And I'm
Right.
sure you all talked quite a bit about that. I'm
Trying
working,
to hang on to our space.
right, well, I'm working up in Blue River now, up the Mackenzie, desperately trying to build housing around and in and around Blue River. It's got a 40-unit mobile home park that is back now, completely burned, and it has more units. We did what we thought we never could do when we expanded a non-conforming use. Through a goal, Lane County was successful, but they reached out to 1,000 Friends. They made sure that we were on board with it, that DEQ was on board, that the cultural archaeology stuff was looked at. And so it was a bit of a slow process, but I see you in it. Actually, you're in a more favorable location because you're on the west side, right? You're in the Coast Range, a little wetter here than the Cascade foothills. Not to say that wildfire is not a risk here, because it is, but it's not. No, it's not. So,
They
and I-
call the Siuslaw forest here the asbestos forest. It's extremely rare when we get fires here.
okay.
It has happened.
Oh, I see. It's okay. I got it.
yeah.
That's
Decades between.
Got it.
Janet, Naomi has something she'd like to say.
Asbestos.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
Teflon,
There's a
Teflon.
question from the from the.
Naomi has something she'd like to say for last 5-10 minutes or so. I just wanted to mention.
Okay, go ahead, Naomi.
I wrote it in the, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
I can hear
yeah.
you.
Okay, I wrote it in the chat room. Basically, what I'm listening and, I understand what's going on. Because I'm involved with ACAC, but, the real problem when we continually come out and have meetings like this and talk about the same issues is that, and Patrick, this is an issue it's real for us. We don't have a program person with the kind of experience to bring all these pieces together and work with a professional to develop. Now, HACAC's been working really hard developing partnerships and looking at different ways to do things, but the bottom line is we're volunteers. There's nobody to actually pick up the ball and run with it. So that's our real issue. We keep going over the same stuff over and over and over again, but we don't have the capability to bring it all together and to get the process started. And then the second thing I wanted to say was when we were talking, met with Tim O'Neill because he's done some preliminaries.
Speak up a little
What?
louder, please, Naomi.
Speak up.
Please.
What?
Speak up a little louder. This is Misty.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. ACAC had a meeting and Tim O'Neill is now officially on the board, and we talked about, because he has issues with water coming down in the back of the hill with his property as well. And he shared with us, because he has some history of the town, what was done, and there was a feasibility study or somebody that was a water person that came out a long time ago and did some assessment. And so when we're looking at the water and the different kinds, where it's coming from and how we could probably manage that because I've been told that there's a lot of underground springs up there, that we could have, if we could get funding to get a water engineer to come in and do an assessment on that whole area to tell us a little bit more about that.
I agree. I think that would be helpful. I think because so many of us have the same issue that you're speaking of, and I don't think that should necessarily fall on all the different landowners. Especially if there's funds available to, address that and have somebody come out and just do a blanket evaluation.
Because then that would help with the new storm drains too.
Yeah, and I heard what you said. Thank you, Naomi. Did you have more?
No?
Okay. I appreciate what you said about the water has to go somewhere. But quite a bit of the problem we have with runoff around here is that the water isn't going the somewhere that it's supposed to be going according to the way the thing's been engineered. So it does become, like in my case, I liked having the seasonal pond at my place, but that's me, right? And I have an acre. I have an actual piece of property in the village, so if part of it's underwater, I still have plenty of place to park my truck, so. And we can sometimes get ODOT out to clean the drains, and we can sometimes get the county out to clean the drains and that kind of stuff, but that's the kind of stuff that we're trying to ameliorate with this list, the standing list, this to-do. I have a honey-do list for the county, right? These things like, can you keep our drains open, so we're not flooding out? I just wanted to say that, because you're right, like the water has to go somewhere, and it rains a lot out here, but we've got a lot of water supposed to be going there, and it's not going there, it's going over into the church.
Especially if the forest, which I'm not an expert on this, so just what I've heard, if the forest has lost its canopy, that is absolutely going to increase the volume and the velocity and the sediment of runoff from the hills.
It's not less.
Yeah.
No.
So if that's not the case, if it's still an intact canopy, then the conditions should be historic. I mean, what has changed up in the mountains to make it so problematic?
There's not as many trees.
Well, see,
Well, I would
that's
say,
what it is.
I would say it's the opposite. I would say we're getting water. The water table is coming up down here.
Okay.
Because there's more, the water is soaking into the ground up there.
Oh, yeah.
So instead of running
Yeah.
off up there into makes its way into the streams before it even gets to town. Now it's actually soaking into the ground, flowing, off a steep hill. On the hill itself, it's 40 feet below. But when it gets to this town, when it tries to go to the Alsea River, now
Yeah.
that curve is at ground level.
Yeah.
So now it's popping up.
I saw that driving in.
Or I mean, from what I know, that's, part of.
Complex system.
Yeah,
No-
it's
no doubt,
huge,
no doubt.
huge
I'm,
thing.
I'm concerned about the cost, frankly, and how difficult, I have a civil engineering degree. I studied some of this stuff in school. It's one of the reasons I became a planner. It's so difficult through all the different hydrologic and hydraulic analyses and flows. That stuff gets expensive fast, and you have to study an entire basin, and then you look at things like tree canopy and things. It's extremely expensive and difficult to develop, maintain, design, implement a stormwater drainage plan. It really is tough.
I don't even
Um,
I want them to not pretend to put in a drain in front of the old bank. And in fact, it runs next door into the basement.
Right, you just push the water somewhere else, right?
That's what I'm speaking to.
Creating the issue right now.
Right, we did that in Seaside, Oregon. We thought we had fixed an issue and we just pushed the water somewhere else.
Years ago, when I was a realtor, I developed some properties down in milepost 30.5. Created some lots, all legal, and one of them had water coming across, and they said, you gotta do something with that water. So I had Dwayne come out, and I put in 6-inch pipe, buried it underneath, took it right out, came out of the bank and into the river. And then I was able to create 2 nice building sites by just diverting that water where it was coming off and spreading out and directing it into the river. And all it took was a couple 100 feet of black, loose plastic pipe, roll it out, bury it. And so on my property down here, I've got a 1/2 acre in the river that, we've got a paved road in there now. And I says, what if I put pipe like that, a perf pipe, to catch any water that'll come off the west of it, because it's in floodplain, catch that water and run it into the river. And they says, go for it. We love it when you can remove water and keep your place nice, put it in the river where it belongs. So there are fairly simple, if you did that with a number of these black pipes and ran it to the river, that's not a real costly. Digging a ditch and bury them, all you have to do is have a couple of collector places where the water goes into the pipe and into the river it goes.
Well, it's getting it over the highway. That's the trick.
The
Yeah.
cumulative,
Drill underneath of
No, I
it.
don't mean what you're saying. I'm talking about the water itself, like the water's over there, the river's over there, there's a highway,
right, I
yeah.
would be concerned about the cumulative impacts of piping and channelizing water that historically has spread out over the land. You're putting it into a pipe, putting it into the river. You're increasing the rate and the elevation of the floodwaters in the river, are you not?
I don't know, we have so much water.
It's so see that's kind of my point. It's so complicated
Yeah,
that, man, trying to engineer a system that you can afford to maintain, it's challenging. But you all know the land better than anybody else.
Flood
So
events come here pretty rarely. They occasionally come, which can happen anywhere, but year in and year out, the river stays within the bank. Rarely does it ever go above the bank. Yeah, I was here when it flooded the school
96,
athletic field.
96 and 07.
That was in the late 90s.
About 96. Yeah,
So
everybody.
Well, what's always concerned me is that they used to take the water for the town out of the river. And then they treated it, and then they send it up up the hill. And then when they decided to put in a real water system and quit taking it out of the river, the main thing that they thought about was they went down next to the river and drilled their wells. Well, I don't think they just thought the river is where the water is. But I'm thinking, I'm not sure, that the river isn't up the hill, and that they might have it up the hill already, not have to pump it up the hill. I mean, it
Right.
looks like they should investigate to see where the water is, because I think there's a limited amount of water down at where the wells are. They probably need more water from there.
You guys know how many water users you have? 100?
I know I'm number 217.
You're number 217.
Other accounts that were formed. you
I
know,
counted about
there-
80 rooftops
there's
just
80
quickly.
rooftops, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah,
Some
that's,
folks
that's
are-
not a lot of people to spread these costs across, right?
Right.
Mhm.
Man. Well,
And that's where CAC hopes to be useful, as in partnering, public-private partnerships.
You bet.
That's part of why we formed.
well, that's why I'm very interested in taking this conversation to the planning commission and to Petra and your staff and have a conversation about the multipurpose agriculture zone.
Mhm.
If there is, like, if you all can get on the same page and we can put reason behind why that zone or that type of zone would produce for you economically, socially, environmentally, you can make a run and I will help you with this at changing the zoning to get you back into the MPA. But it's gonna take a lot of work through your staff, through your planning commission, up to the board. But really, this is where the conversation needs to occur. And I will come back and I'll continue to come back to help you guys. Cause I just wanna understand where you're at and I wanna advocate for you. Even if I don't believe in what you wanna do, I will advocate for you if that's your position. Because you're Oregonians and you're living out here in the valley. And everything that I've read about the statewide planning program, it's meant to be local. Like, we provide a framework and then you all fill in, the local amenities and aspects of what you need the land use program to do for you. And I don't think we've quite hit the mark. In fact, I know we haven't, particularly here with what I've learned about the multipurpose agriculture zone. And you're not alone. There are other counties that lost a 10-acre, a 20-acre minimum zone when the EFU zoning came in, usually in 1993 is when that stuff kind of seemed, either 93 or 03 is when the two big sets of farming rules came in.
That's where the philosophy came down that led to most of Eastern Oregon wanting to move to Idaho, leave Portland
Yeah.
and Clackamas counties to their own devices.
Right.
Because it's the thinking that comes from the elites in that corridor.
Well, I would disagree with you. I lived in Portland when they started land use planning, is because farmers were being taxed out of their property.
Yeah.
And so, they did not want to look like Sacramento. And so preserving farmland started up there because if a farmer could divide up, they had 10 acres for an orchard, right, and sell each of 10 acres off for 10 times as much as would be for farmland, which they were doing, then the county said, well, if your property, instead of being $1,000 an acre, is actually $10,000 an acre, they ended up taxing farmers out of their land, and that's why we had farmers land use.
Benton County denies that sort of thinking, right? You get taxed on your land for what it's used for, not for what it could be used for.
Well, before we had land planning.
So, well, you go and talk to them now, they'll just say
Well,
that doesn't happen.
I have my competitions with
But you can divide it up.
the assessor's office. But,
Well,
cause
that was
their interpretations
where I
are
got that too.
not
This is
right.
office.
a lot, but anyway,
But so so what you were saying with MPA, because it still exists on the books, you still have it. We could potentially do like an MPA overlay here. We could go back to that if we work really hard to see if we can get, and we just be for time.
If you can answer the question, why?
Why?
What would it do for you?
Well, you're right, economically.
Because 90% of all the land in Benton County is either owned by the feds or large industrial tree farms, you know, including the Starker property. And so that's not buildable. And back when I was on the commission, if we cut every farm into 5-acre pieces, it wouldn't have doubled. And this is 20 years ago, 30. It wouldn't double the population of Benton County. And no one wants to cut everything up into 5 acres, but I physically mapped it out and says, you know, you've put a big blanket over everything, you don't use common sense. And it was, you know, mostly political.
Well, and I think politically, Benton County, you are in a elevated place. I mean, you're a pretty sophisticated bunch here. And I would think that if you could put together your reasoning and under Oregon law, we call it an ESEE analysis. You think about the economics, how would it economically benefit the village, other villages, to have smaller lots available for farmers? We have to talk about the McMansion piece and the fact that, well, you know, that's what happens, because that's a negative in the state's eyes.
But why?
We're gonna drive over Alsea Mountain.
But why? Why is it why does anybody care?
It's a complicated answer, but it largely has to do with keeping people close to where they work, go to school, worship, and keep people off the roads, all these single vehicle trips.
That's exactly what I'm
I
trying
have
to do.
a big house. I have a very big house. And we live and work around here.
You bet. Well, and it's great
not
that,
necessarily the case,
right,
you know? I gotta tell you my story. I tell it a million times and I'm tired of it. But, you know, it was back in the 90s. We had a company want to buy some of our rural industrial land. And they made some kind of robotics. And the owners of this company wanted to give their employees a rural lifestyle. They had Alsea in their sights, and they came and they talked to us about this land, and they wanted to come here. They thought it was a wonderful area. But the more they looked, the more they realized that the land use system would keep them away. There's no place for their people to live.
Yeah.
They had 10 to 12 people they wanted to bring with them,
right.
but they ruled us out just because there was nowhere for them to live. Not even lands available to build on.
Right.
Or just anything. And that was once that happened again, but it's the same scenario, you know, it's almost like whoever decided 50 years ago that this land use system was viable didn't want people to live in rural areas. You felt like you were being herded into town where we can manage you better, you know? But my thoughts are more important just safety wise.
Yeah,
People driving from here to the coast or from the valley to the coast. What if we weren't here?
right,
We already don't have a gas station.
right. We need
Can't
rural
help
service
people
centers,
that
right.
come through and need some gas.
If you're,
You know, there's a lot of reasons for us to be here. We have our own school district. We want to be here, but eventually you become a ghost town if you can't provide something for somebody to want to come here. You know, and I don't feel like you should have to justify your existence to a state or or anybody.
Yeah, no, that's fair, that's fair. I want to finish this thought, because I mentioned the economics. These are the things that you all should be thinking about if you want to take a run at doing some zoning out in the resource lands. How does it benefit you economically? How does it benefit you socially? And and I appreciate the comment about agritourism, because that is kind of a loaded weaponized term. I'd like to talk about agricultural ambassadorship or something that's better. But how would having more productive farms maybe mixed in with high-end homes? I mean, there is benefit to having high-end homes. It's tough at the state level to convince people of that, but there are the Realtors Association, others have lobbyists, and so, you know, there are ways. The Home Builders Association would be another one. So economically, socially, environmentally, how would carving up some of the land or advancing smaller farms help the environment? And then the last one is energy. So it's an ESEE. It's a discretionary process that is applied to these really heavy hitting land use decisions that are goal exceptions or zone changes or things of that nature. But I want you to be thinking about that, because if you can put pen to paper with your planning commission, say, hey, you know, through this ESEE analysis, we believe bringing the MPA zoning back is important, and here are the reasons why. I would offer that that's your foot in the door. I mean, that is your foot in the door to start making waves.
And can we do it, or we need to get somebody with letters behind their name to do it?
No, you have to do it. I mean, Benton County has to do it. You don't need people with letters behind their names. In my opinion, you're a pretty sophisticated group. I've been a consultant in the past. I would be more than happy to assist you, help you, just basically, I mean, if Petra would allow me, almost act as like a little bit of a subordinate staff to you. Like, I'd be happy to come out here and staff your meetings. That's probably not the right terms. Forgive me, Petra. But to help you, just to help you,
Thank you.
so that I know what's coming to LCDC. So we can get Mimi and you, Janet, in front of our commissioners to have these conversations. Because I know we have commissioners that are very receptive to these conversations, very receptive to them. Not all of them, not all of them.
What does ESEE mean?
It's economically, socially, environmentally, energy. What
Oh.
energy? What is that? What do you mean by energy?
Well,
What is
the
that?
way I explained to Janet, like not
driving
burning a
a lot.
lot of gas and
Got it.
fuel and needing to maintain
So
roads that counties can't maintain and are expensive
We can
to.
be a giant HOA and you're gonna only have
No.
electric vehicles, guys.
No.
Say,
I don't think that's gonna fly.
does the DLC have the governors here?
Sure we do. Yeah, I mean, we're an executive
You know, they've
agency.
mandated, they wanna go to all electric vehicles, like pickups,
I mean,
because they're following California and Washington. And if you have if you mandate electric vehicle 5 or 10 years from now, you don't have the infrastructure to support them.
yeah, I
And-
agree.
And so you can say, hey, madam, it's an idea that you need to grow into. You can't put a time label and say, at this time we will.
Right.
You just have to grow it slow. And so if you could give your voice to her ear, just take it as it comes, you know?
Yeah, no, I
We need
think
our
that's,
gas and oil and natural gas.
I think that's right. I think that's fair and
Don't mess with our ovens, our stoves.
I have a question.
That's fair.
Have you ever done anything with like conservation easements
Mhm.
for like this, like,
it sounds like that's what she has on her property. Right here.
yeah.
No, I don't have.
Well,
any
no,
eas- I
more
have
like,
any-
more like
I
a
have-
conservation
any
easement that's permanently tied to the property.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
got something
So,
fancier than
well,
that.
that's kind of what my question is. So I know the state now, you can do a conservation easement for 160 feet along the streams, right? Or
You would know better than me because I'm not a property
For-
owner, so.
for now, so like a fish stream, you can do a conservation easement, you write it in your deed.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Basically,
You get paid for it.
well, no, not really, it's basically for logging. So there's new rules, right? You can't log within, remember it's 110 feet, I'm not quite sure.
110.
But, so
Okay.
now they let you write it for tax purposes or whatever purposes, they let you write that conservation easement.
Okay.
The state actually help, Oregon Department of Forestry will help you with that.
Okay.
Is that an option? Or is there an option like that to help with not have, to keep like 3 generations on a farm.
I do. I think that's a great point. It's a great question. I know we're almost at time here, so I want to open new doors. Because you've given me a lot. I mean, I've many things I would really like to talk to you in this group about, as we have more time. Yes, I think there is certainly a role for conservation easements in open space and ways to allow the water that's so prevalent in this valley to get out, into the riparian areas, so you're not channelizing things. Yeah, I think there's absolutely a role for conservation easements in a holistic conversation, if you will, about the health of the valley, if that makes sense.
Oh, were you talking more about a succession easement?
Yeah, that's kind of,
Talking more-
that was kind of,
I'm not sure I understand that.
Well,
You would make it up, I mean, that's a new term.
yeah, you basically, it's making it up. So what you would do is tie your property to itself. So basically
Succession.
to succession. So like what's another? Losing my, like a trust almost.
Mhm.
So it would be basically like some trusts are tied to the deed. That makes the next landowner keep it as farm use, or can only have 3 houses on this 100-acre farm that they own.
I see.
So instead of, even if you
Okay.
split the property up into, even if MPA was 20 acres and you had 100, if you could still only build 3 houses on your 100 acres, even though the law might say you could build it, one for every 20.
I think that would be an outstanding conversation to have with the planning commission, with the board, and then with our commission.
These people.
That would be
amazing.
outstanding. I mean, that would be a
Well,
fantastic
amazing.
And
conversation.
it would make a
Set
20-acre
up and
farm
set the
maybe have 2 home sites, but it can't be split. So the home has to be for, I guess I don't know all the farm, housing rules and stuff like that, which
Yeah.
some of what I'm talking about might be.
You could
that
definitely
part.
lock that stuff into your deed.
Yeah.
You can do a 99-year.
Would that help with getting some of our changes made?
I think so. Yeah, I
I
think.
didn't know if you've done anything like that.
No,
That's why I was
we're
kinda
the
asking.
Department of Land Conservation and Development. So we're trying to
Oh,
find
yes,
that,
guys-
we're trying to find that balance, right?
You guys are psychotic, you have like. First, yeah.
So yes,
Get the
Okay.
if you have folks at the table that are saying, hey, this isn't all about shaving and paving the valley. I'm protecting my 100 acres and here's how I'm doing it. I've got riparian easements across my property. Absolutely. I think it's potentially like anecdotal,
Mm,
but it's important. I
mm.
think those stories are what could tip a board or a commission to favor one idea over another.
Mhm.
Which is my concern, quite frankly, about large lot, rural residential development that doesn't result in any resource production.
Mhm.
Whether it's timbering or ag. But
You can't
realtors are smart.
MPA zone, it's set up, the
Well, I think
land's
that's-
already zoned, just give them a building right.
And I think that's where this conversation could lead, is how could the MPA zone, if brought back, still meet state objectives, but more importantly, address the issues that you all are giving your volunteer time tonight away from your families and everything else to try to make this a better place. I mean, that absolutely could, I think, and frankly, needs to be part of the conversation. That's the environment in the ESCE conversation.
I know some big timber companies around here, they sell property, every once in a while, or give easements, but they have in that part of connected to that deed that you can't say bad things about logging practices.
Oh.
And I'm not saying that's the right way, but what I'm saying is they could, in that, you could stipulate, that all these practices or whatever have to be followed.
Well, my conditional use permit says that I can't impact any forestry around me, I can't impact any
Yeah.
farming around me, I can't have my people driving up and down the road multiple times. I got 6 things that I can't do, or that I have to promise, which is fine, I mean,
Yeah.
it's not a problem. my neighbors drive up and down that road. all
Well,
the
I
time.
feel like that could,
Isn't that the
that, you
real
know,
life?
what makes it non-conditional or the conditional
Right.
use part, you could put that into that easement and just take that away from it. You know, so it's like that. I don't, it's
Right,
just
yeah.
something,
Right.
yeah.
So do you get, okay, if you don't mind, do you get paid from, on that easement?
We don't get, so from the conservation easement that we have written on the deed, we don't get paid for that.
Oh,
We,
okay.
we do have, we can still do conservation easement through, you know, the NRCS or whoever. And get paid for
And we
those,
get paid for
But it's not an easement, that's what, one of my battles.
but it's not permanent, it's a
with
5-year.
lease, A 10-year
Yes,
lease.
yeah.
Right. They pay
That's
you
what I
to
got
do it.
into with Michelle Ham over it, and an easement you have to register with the court clerk,
Yep,
and a lease you don't have to. And she was demanding all sorts of things she was wrong about.
Yeah.
And so I get paid. Well, I guess this year was supposed to be $135 maybe, but, so I get paid to
Not-
do what you're doing with the easement, yeah, but his is more permanent.
yeah, mine,
You're protecting,
and mine,
for Oregon more permanently than,
and mine connects different parcels together.
oh, really?
So there's 30 different parcels for this tree farm
Wow.
and farm, really, there's,
Mhm.
but it's all, even ones that aren't connected are the same.
Wow,
So it's not, I mean, according to the county, there's a, you know, we get a list of, you know, checks we have to write or whatever for
Mhm.
taxes, but it's all one.
Mhm.
And you can do that for different farms. I mean,
Mhm.
it just depends on what the owner wants, some of it,
uh-huh,
you know, for the size, but
so how does it?
there's different,
I'd be
there's a
very
lot of ways to
interested.
do things. I don't think we have to like say there's only one way, you know, like the MPA now, says it's a 20-acre minimum without a building. I don't think we just have to say we want a 10-acre minimum with a building. You know, there's more ways to get it,
Right.
because I don't want a whole bunch of, you know, people from somewhere else coming here. I wanna make affordable housing for people that are from here.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how to do that.
Well, you can't, that's, I don't know, you
With,
can't do
with,
that.
Yeah.
without one of those types of easements.
Yeah.
That's the only way that I see.
But do they want to stay?
But you have to have a reason for them to stay over here.
Yeah, no, I agree, yeah,
And
Yeah, but you can have a
And-
buffet of options.
you got a school
yeah.
Gas
that,
station, I mean,
and I don't know, cause I haven't been connected, but how many teachers drive over the hill every day?
Well, then, yeah,
Almost
exactly.
all.
So Zeb, I love how he puts things together. He's so good. And I see you looking at the clock, but so. And I don't want to open this to talk about, I want to just toss it into the conversation. Everything you said is just so valuable and creates so much thought for me. Are you steering us away from trying to have a small rental development or something like that in the village or adjacent to the village area? Are you trying to steer us away from something like that? I've been seeing these little small housing developments that have been popping up in Lynn and Benton County where there's just a few little units real close together, you know. a
Probably
little-
quite the opposite,
Yeah.
quite the opposite. When I looked at your zoning, I noticed you don't have cottage clusters.
Yeah,
as an
that's what I
allowed
mean, can we
use.
put some of
So,
those in? Would that be okay?
The
Like, is
state,
there a path to
we-
that?
oh gosh, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely, there are many ways. If you
Yes.
want small homes on small lots clustered together in the village.
I'm thinking about staffing for our services. We have all these
The
community
lot that's
services.
my own, it's 30 by 90, and I was gonna put a single wide on it,
Yeah.
instead of running it through a realtor, I was first gonna put it in Alsea Friends and Neighbors, cause I'd love for a teacher
Yeah,
who's traveling from Walport to
Exactly.
be able to have a place where they could.
oh, thank
So
you.
you're able to build on a 2,700 square foot lot, even though the zoning is 5,000, cause it's a legal
Yeah, I
lot.
put in,
Yeah.
it'd be about a 660 square foot, 2-bedroom, 1 bath with front porch and covered
No,
parking.
state loves that stuff.
Yeah.
We're all about that stuff. I mean, we are all about, right, more people, crammed together in
Yeah.
an urban growth boundary, because we want to protect the resource land. We want to protect the farmers, we want to protect the foresters, we want to allow farmers and foresters to do their thing. We don't want houses clogging up the supply chain out there. But it cuts both ways, right? It cuts both ways. We can't be
Yeah, we
so
don't-
myopic.
We
that
don't have lots, I guess that's where I'm going with it, like, we don't have a place to put the cottage cluster. We don't have a place to put the cottage cluster.
So
So-
I have a question.
Right, right.
Just a general question. We've had this land use system for 50 years. Why has it taken 50 years to do a review? And to take stock of what it has accomplished? I mean, to me, if I ruled the world, every law that got passed would have benchmarks to meet.
Yeah.
And a review time and a sunset. Or continuance, if it was something that was a positive for the citizens.
Well, Mimi explained how the commission was lauded by Thousand Friends and others for all the preservation of farmland that we've done. If you compare Oregon to other states, we have met the mark.
I know we have, but what has it gotten? Is there
That's a great follow-up,
in the
right?
Alsea
Right?
Valley?
But she's
I
waiting
wanna
for
know
your
how much
answer.
food it produces.
But she's waiting for it.
You know, I would like to know how much food, and I would count hay as food for cows, cause I eat cows. But how much do we produce?
Well, Oregon is the #1 lumber producing state in the US. Lane County and Douglas County are 1 and 2 counties in the US.
Really?
So I would offer that the land use program has had some role in protecting and preserving a sustainable forest.
We are surrounded by forests. And, I mean, they produce, you don't need it.
And the 3 lots connected to like Alsea, like right here, like within a half a mile. BLM owns, I think I just looked it up, like 40,000 acres.
Yeah.
Never gonna be anything but.
Most of the land here is.
Well, I don't know,
public land.
with the new administration, I mean, some of the things that I mean, I've read that the new administration may,
You're
Be
pretty sure
willing
they'll
to-
be able to get it all done in 4 years?
well, I mean,
Because
if you I mean, I don't know if you've got connections, I really don't, but I mean, if you targeted BLM land or Forest Service land and you worked with the legislators that had the ear of the administration, maybe, I mean, maybe we could move the needle on that.
Yeah, I mean, personally, in my great opinion, which would never work, that's where the homes need to be.
Where they need to be?
Yeah, they don't need to be down in the valley here.
Right,
They need to be
on hills.
up on the hills.
I think.
And that's where they
Valley
used
should
to
have
be.
to be taken away, built up on
And
the
that's where the homes used to be.
foothills.
So-
That's the least productive land.
All the 20-30,000 acres
Just
around
like
here,
Last Salem, when I
used to
saw the
be
little
homes.
farmland that they lived on.
up. You
Well,
know,
I think
all-
this is a really rich conversation to get into, because if you can identify those sweet spots out of the floodplain, up in a bench, you know, not at the highest fire risk, which I'm hearing that this forest is
It's a safe forest for, we have. the
Relatively
fog,
speaking.
We have the fog, the marine air.
yeah, Benton County was the only county that didn't declare an emergency in 2020.
Yeah.
All the counties around
We
here
didn't
did.
have one.
So I appreciate you letting me have some time with you all. I probably spoke too much, so I apologize for that. But I would very much like to, you know, and it's important to your staff, to Petra, your planning director, your department heads. Cause I know that the meeting 2 months ago, you had some of your county service people out here, public works. Benton County has established service districts. Lane County hasn't. But so you already have the county you know, doing things for you out here above and beyond maybe what some other counties are doing. And we know that the dollars never go far enough. But I would offer that there are things that this group can do, certainly along the lines of zoning. It's gonna get challenging out in the resource areas. We know you're gonna have us, you're gonna have Thousand Friends, you're gonna have other groups that are gonna wanna keep, you know, conflicting uses, housing, agritourism out of those areas. But I think these conversations have to be had, and not just conversations, but actually implementation of some of these ideas. And I'm gonna work for you. I absolutely will.
See, a unique area should have unique zoning.
Yes,
Well, that's why we have the MPA, but it's null and void.
I know.
Well, so we're gonna do this so that we get it back.
I only hope so. It's only fair.
so do me a favor and be thinking about the energy, environmental, social and economic reasons why redoing the zoning would be helpful in those regards.
I have
Finding letter
one
from me.
one thing to throw in here. I think the most important thing that we raise in Alsea is children.
And then
We
we
don't
export
raise
them.
many of those, but I see the kids that, I look at those places in Philomath and stuff where they're just stacked on top of each other, they don't have a place to play, I was just listening to a podcast by Victor Davis Hanson, I don't know if you heard of them.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
a pretty learned man, and he was saying, he grew up on a farm, he's still farming, I guess, and he was able to run free and get acquainted with his neighbors, his relatives, it influenced his life, how it influenced his life. And that's what we have out here, is a good place for kids. And I think and speaking for the agritourism too, at least maybe people could come and bring their kids for a week and give them some freedom.
You bet.
Which is why families keep coming back to my place.
Right.
Because they can let their
Right.
kids be free.
And what you have is unique in Oregon because zoning has, really tamped down those opportunities. So
If we go away, we go.
that's right.
If you bankrupt us, we're gone.
Yeah.
I mean, not,
Yeah,
but
no, that's loud
does
and
this
clear.
stuff.
Right, right. No, I
So there's
I
a-
appreciate this.
So Patrick, can we look ahead and, find a date where we have you back
How often do you guys meet?
once a month?
I mean, I have to clear it with Petra. I'm gonna make sure that like, I'm not causing her too much heartburn over anything I've said.
I cause
Because-
heartburn all the time. Or all I get
Because
is
it's, even though, some of this stuff that we're talking about could potentially, involve our commission, it mainly would involve your commission, though, your commissioners. It would only come to us, potentially upon an appeal or something, but probably to the Land Use Board of Appeals. But, I mean, I could come out here once a month. I mean,
come
I
over
could,
and
I could
First
commit to
Monday.
that, but I wanna make sure that I'm not,
Yeah, yeah, totally got it,
doing something that your staff is maybe not, excited about. So let me check in with your staff and, I'll be here as often as you guys will have me, as often as the county, would like, and, we can go from there.
You spent an afternoon with Janet, and perhaps also,
I don't wanna run him off. I'll behave.
Oh, I don't know.
also George Foster.
Oh, yeah.
George Foster's a large landowner, he's an entrepreneur, born and raised in Alsea. And he also would be able to help expand your understanding
Good.
of this unique valley.
See, I have the benefit of having worked for developers and having developed property myself. So I understand what it looks like being on the other side of the counter, getting stonewalled or, not really getting a straight answer about what can I or what I can't do on this property. So I'm very sensitive to that and why I want to be here with you all because, everything I've read in our literature about the land use program, about why it's here, about the state of Oregon, rural communities come up time and time again. The importance of rural communities, having rural service centers, making sure that the traveling public, the visiting public, tourists, have a place to fuel up. And like you said, Janet, once you're gone, you're gone.
And this is a scenic byway, by the way.
Yeah.
We'll be,
Without a gas station.
Like, sure you have gas. Eastern Oregon.
We need to put a Halloween skeleton with a gas can, at the gas station. Put it on to social media.
Okay.
Thank you,
so
Patrick. Thank you for coming.
I think we have approval of the minutes from December 2nd left on our agenda. I did look through them. They look good to me. Does anybody want to move that we approve the minutes?
I'll move to approve.
I'll
Yeah.
second that.
Okay. All All approved? All
Aye.
agree?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Minutes are approved.
Janet, who was this?
Misty second.
Misty.
Misty.
Deb moved.
Thank you.
It was approved unanimously.
We arrived at an agreement.
And,
We did it.
so we will be back here next February 3rd, 6 o'clock. We are adjourned.
Do you know what's happening next month, Petra?
No, Janet and Sarah, I'll follow up with you tomorrow morning.
Okay. You can go to bed now.
So first Monday, I may not be available the first Monday. I'm gonna be at my son's college for senior day. I might not be available, but I would definitely be available